At least 170,000 convicts across Russia were recruited to fight in the war against Ukraine. As a rule, these are murderers, rapists, and maniacs. Many of them, after being wounded, return not to prison to serve their sentences, but to Russian cities and villages. After all, Putin had previously signed a decree amnestying criminals fighting in the Russian army. Upon their return, the dubious heroes of the so-called special military operation take up their old ways. They commit crimes again, including against their spouses.
This has increased the violence against women in Russia, which already is on a very high level, with thousands of women dying each year as a result of domestic violence. There is no law in Russia distinctly criminalizing domestic violence or gender-based violence. Many of them who return, and this is an emerging trend, have been perpetrating new violent crimes to begin with against women, against girls, against children, including sexual violence and killings. Mariana Katsarova, United Nations Special Rapporteur on human rights issues within the Russian Federation, Voice of America publication quotes.
From January to August 2024, more than 400,000 serious and especially serious crimes were recorded in Russia. This is the highest figure in the last 13 years. For example, in the Belgorod region, the number of serious and especially serious crimes has increased by almost 30% in a year. And the reason for the increase in unmotivated domestic violence is the return from the front of the so-called new elite of Russia.
A stream of criminals poured into Russia from the war, notably especially dangerous criminals recruited by Prigozhin, and he preferred to take those who are not afraid of blood. The boom occurred when it became impossible to hide it, and the attitude towards it changed. In the summer of 2023, it became clear to us that no one feels sorry for the Russian population, putting Putin's cannibals, killers, murderers.
For example, now a cannibal walks the streets calmly. Volgograd resident Dmitry Malyshev, sentenced to 25 years in prison for murder and a number of other particularly serious crimes, returned from the front to his native village on leave after being wounded. 10 years ago, Malyshev killed a native of Tajikistan, cut out his heart, fried it, and ate it, filming it all on video. And before that, as a member of a criminal group, he shot 2 businessmen in order to take possession of their car. Malyshev and his accomplices also planned to kill police officers, intending to obtain weapons for subsequent attacks, but the ambush failed. Malyshev said that he'd signed a contract with the Ministry of Defense in October 2023 and gone to the front as part of the Storm V detachment. When asked why he decided to go to war, the cannibal replied that he wanted to protect traditional values. The Moscow Times publication writes, Malyshev and his ilk not only remain at large, but are also involved in the educational process in Russian schools. In particular, they teach fundamentals of safety and defense of the motherland. Even if these are not former prisoners, these are people who went through a criminal war, people who survived among deaths and also killed. What do you want them to teach children? The experience of killing, contempt for life, mental disorders. Previously, children used to be taught their personal safety, but now the emphasis has shifted to protecting the homeland, and the homeland is understood as the current regime. In addition to teaching in schools, the so-called new elite is also being drawn into governing the country. Now the Kremlin is taking Russian military personnel who have completed training under Putin's Time of Heroes program for internships in the state apparatus. The first stream of 83 Russian military personnel began training at the end of this May. Since July, program participants have been sent for internships in the regions. For example, Mikhail Ostriansky, who served in the Wagner PMC, has become the head of the parliament of the Krasnovishersky urban district in Perm Krai. In total, over 300 participants in the war against Ukraine who returned from the front became deputies of various levels in the elections held in Russia in early September. Reported by Yulia Hranovska, Pavlo Shtermach, UETV News.